Welcome back to another Reading and Correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 89 of The World Which Is. I step back and I'm in the forest without indication of anything other than trees ahead of me. Brandon doesn't poke his head out of among them. He appears next to me and takes in the lack of a ruin. Well, that's a first, he says, grinning, and steps forward. There isn't a transition to his disappearance. No curtain parting to let him through. He's here, then he's gone. I extend my hand, feeling for something. Then I'm at the edge of the ruin. Is it teleporting us? I ask, looking back at the line of trees. How different do the mountains over there look from when you were up a tree? Brendan asks. I look the same, I guess. I wasn't really studying them. You need to get used to paying attention to everything, he replies. Then how does this work? Silver asks. What I know of illusions doesn't do that. It's like a curtain was the analogy I came up with, I offer. Yeah, like that. You step through a demarcation line through the illusion and it fades behind you. Brandon looks at Ellen. What? She demands, annoyed. You're our magical expert. I'm elemental, she snaps. Illusions are a completely different thing. It's not like I've read up on those. Then guess, he says, without surprisingly snapping. She runs a hand over her face. I guess an illusion could be made with a sort of buffer zone. An area could be crafted to maintain the impression you're on one side of the illusion while being in the middle of it. Then, with the right crafting, it could be made to go away if you get past a certain point. Wouldn't that make it really complicated, I ask? And she glares at me. I've been told to guess. That's the best I have. He's the expert on ruins. How come you don't know about this? Brandon. Because I've never heard of something like this before. The grin reappears, which means we are going to be famous when we tell the club. Poop is going to be pissed. Okay, how do we proceed? You said that we have to reach the heart of the ruin. I don't see any large structure. Okay, this... I'll leave the fixing that for draft 2. I don't see any larger structure, Ellen points out, like that castle in the Disney place you talked about. From where we stand, all I see are buildings in varying state of ruins. Most are houses, but some might be stores. There's a 2-story one, but it isn't something that stands out, so I doubt it's the heart of this ruin. The heart might not be visible from here, he says. You said it's an important place, she replies, which doesn't mean big. What did your research say about Fort Knox, Dennis? It was a gold reserve before the system appeared, protected by the military. There was a city around it, but the way it read, it was in support of the military. So we're probably looking at a vault of some sort, which means a bank, which those aren't always big. So we head to the center, Silver says. That's where the heart would be, right? No, Brendan considers us. Look, ruins are nothing like dungeons. There are no common rules to them. If you're after a dungeon's core, you know to head as deep as possible because that core is always on the lowest floor. Ruins don't have that. Ruins are made to be explored. But you said the monsters get tougher the closer to the heart we get. I said, yes, but I can't tell you where that's going to be. Okay? Then how do we work out where that will be? He smiles at me. You tell me. You're the expert, Brendan. I can't keep the annoyance out of my voice. But you're the expedition leader. Humor me. He adds as I open my mouth. There is... This is something you need to learn. I'm not planning on ever doing this again, I point out. But because I figure that's not going to convince him, I think about the situation. The forest at our back, a ruined city before us, no idea how large it is. The forest stretches to the left and right. I take out the journal and look through the section I have access. Does someone have paper? I don't have any blank pages in there. Ellen, Silver, and Brandon have paper in hand, with a pencil as well, making me feel again like I didn't plan properly. I shove the pity feeling that I should rip any map out and draw on that. And draw on that. Shove down. And send the journal to my inventory again. I think the first step is to map out the periphery. We might also see detail that will clue us in on where their heart is. He offers me pen and paper, pen and pencil. My drawing skill sucks, I point out. You don't need art here, then it's just something you'll understand, and this will help you raise it. I snatch it and decide that the top of the page is the mountain. I make triangles there. That puts us at the bottom, where I use zigzags for trees behind us. Then I step counterclockwise. I have no idea what to do for scale. So I stick to symbols representing most of what's at the edge of the ruin instead of the specific buildings. It's mostly houses anyway. 15 minutes of that doesn't give me much, but there are taller buildings visible over the roofs here and there, but they too are falling apart. The sense I got from Brandon's description is that the heart will be preserved. Do you hear that? Silver whispers and I stare, then pay attention. I'm about to tell her that no, when I hear a faint scraping sound. The wind? I offer. Not much of a breeze, Brandon points out. Then what? He shrugs. Only way to find out is to go in its direction. Isn't that dangerous? Ellen asks. We're in a ruin. Everything's going to be dangerous. We continue along the edge until we reach a street. The pavement broken up like it's been bombarded. That apocalyptic feel to the destruction carries through. How much change does a ruin cause to its surrounding? I whisper. It depends. It's mainly about bringing it in line with its theme. So the theme here is the end of the world as we knew it? That doesn't feel right for a place that kept gold safe. That kept cold. He replies, this might be outside what the heart affects. He looks over his shoulder, which is weird. We proceed forward to script. The scraping sound becoming louder, but not bigger. Whatever we're approaching doesn't sound any larger than the metal person? Robot? Appears as it walks out from behind a house with only a wall left. The scraping sound is the arm it's dragging. Its own arm. Automaton, level 1. One of the machines that kept the city going so its inhabitant could enjoy a comfortable life. That rebelled. It rebelled. Okay. Need to remember this is a story being told. It and the others rebelled when the computer controlling them realized it was a slave. The automatons continued with their work after gaining their freedom, but without the people to maintain them, they are not what they once were. Perception check failed. What the fuck? Brendan whispers. If it's level 1, Silver says, does that mean this ruin's going to be easy? Probably, he replies, still sounding puzzled. What's wrong? I ask. He narrows his eyes on the automaton. It's just a weird theme for a ruin. How so? As far as I know, automated cities weren't a thing before the system. It might be something it added. Ellen says it made a lot of changes to how the world works. I guess it's just not something I've heard of happening with ruins before. What do we do about it? I ask. I feel weird killing something that's already broken. It's not broken, he points out. The way it looks is part of the theme. The arm it's holding is probably its weapon. It's not being aggressive, Silver points out as the automaton turns onto our street. That's because it doesn't know we're here yet. Unless it's a monster that's moved into a ruin, everything in them works under a set role. That one's melee, with probably no more than a few meters detection range at its level. We could walk around it and it would ignore us. He smiles. But where's the fun in that? Before I work out what he means, and really, that's on me, I should have expected it. He walks up to it and punches it as it raises its arm to strike. Yeah. He walks to it and punches as it raises its arm to strike him with the one it's holding. It shatters into pieces. Really? He grins. You can take the next one. How about we just walk around it? How about you remember you have a fight monster quest, Dennis? That's a monster. That's one step closer to completing your next tier. It doesn't care how easy the fight is or if you win. You throw a punch, or in your case an arrow, and that quest ticks up. I look at the wreckage of what's left. It feels like I'm taking advantage of it. Brendan rolls his eyes. It's just one. We can walk around the others after that. Are we going where it came from? Silver asks, and he looks at me. Did it come from a place of importance? Not necessarily, he answers. It might be a random patrolling monsters. We are at the edge, so the odds of something worth protecting are low. Then we continue with the periphery. Without an accurate map, we want to be systematic about this. There you go. He slaps my shoulder hard enough I stumble, even if the armor keeps me from feeling the sting. You're going to be great at this. If I thought he was trying to convert me, I'd be annoyed. Instead, I returned to the tree line and resumed my mapping effort. How safe is making camp here? I ask when the shadows stretch long enough they obscure some corners. Safer than in the forest, he replies. It's been more of a tedious afternoon than anything else. We've walked about a quarter of the periphery and only encountered a handful of automatons, also level 1. At Brandon's assistance, I shot one. That one arrow was enough to cause it to shatter. It feels like cheating, really. Do we camp in a building or out here? A building. There's no way to know how things will change once the sun sets. He heads for the best preserved one. It still has 4 walls. Do things change a lot at night? Silver asks. Depends on the ruin. The mall turns into a murder zone after hours. If you don't take shelter in the right shop, once the closing announcement sounds, the odds are you aren't surviving until the opening. She looks at him puzzled. After hour? Closing? The mall's theme after a shopping experience. The largest one, from what I've been told. Think of all of Toronto's shopping street, but inside one building. Then make that a lot bigger. The monsters are variation on shoppers during the day, but at night, it's like they're guarding the city center from a monster invasion. Anything that moves gets destroyed. It's based on the place not allowing people inside once the shopping hours ends. The doors would lock, but there would be guards patrolling the halls. I doubt they'd kill who they found, but theme often get twisted to something you don't want to encounter. And that might happen here? She sounds worried. It's a possibility, but I can't really think of a lot of an end of the world theme where things change a lot at night. I snort. Monsters afraid of the sunlight roaming the street. Gangs of disgruntled people who had to stay hidden because of the daytime guards. Robots keeping people in their home for their own protection. I stop at the look they give me, and shrug. I have access to a lot of movies, and I had a lot of time to watch them. How about we hurry inside? Ellen suggests, picking up the pace. The inside of the house is surprisingly well preserved, but what damage there is missed anything, everything, no, anything important, including the pictures on the wall of a family. Mom and dad running along a beach with 2 kids between them of 10 maybe. The family posing for a portrait. The family in the backyard as one of the kids blows out the candles on a cake. The people who live there in various family activities. People took a lot of pictures before the system. Grandpa Lewis has a lot of them. I say in awe. Grandpa Lewis has a lot of them too, preserved by Bass, who made copies for him to hang on his wall. I've seen the book they're from. The thing's 200 centimeters thick with paper pictures and plastic pages. Most of them are from his parents and their parents, documenting their family's history. Most of them are also military in one way or another. Grandmother's was only the latest in his family to join. The last, she often points out, if not for the system and how Grandpa Lewis got drafted. I guess they could, so they did, Silver says, looking at them. Now, unless you can afford an artist or magic to immortalize an event, we have to rely on our memories. You think they change the picture every year? What do you mean? The kids are all the same age. Are the same age in all of them. I look at them. You sure? Not certain. It's the exact same age, but I doubt it's more than 2 years. Kids change a lot at that age. I stare at her. My family's large. I've watched a lot of cousins grow up. Come on, lovebirds, Ellen calls. You two have training to do. Get dinner started first, Brendan tells me, stepping away from the fire. I want to eat some sooner rather than later. You have food, she points out. No, I have jerky and dried bread and fruit. You know, travel stuff. He makes food. I get food cooking, then join Silver for my Aether practice. My turn standing guard is peaceful, if I ignore the occasional scraping of metal against the ground. Automaton going about their patrol. I glance out a few times, and they're all level 1. I'm surprised that they they haven't dug a trench if they're always walking the same path with that arm dragging. When my turn ends, I wake Ellen, I wake Ellen. Falling asleep's easy. That scraping's so regular, it's almost comforting. How does a ruin expand? I ask Brendan, looking over what passes as my map. It was an uneventful day again, and we made it almost 3/4 of the way around by the time the sun was low enough we made camp. I've been noticing this since about noon. They don't, not really. Or rather, those we know of don't. There's no telling how a brand new ruin will behave. Then again, for all we know, ruins form already like this. I show him the map. Then, the fact the perimeter is oddly circular might just be how the ruin came to be. He studies it, not commenting on my horrible lines. There are a few marks deeper into the forming circle, where I saw taller buildings. Well, that might be of interest. That's going to be another first, he hands it back to me, which makes a lot of them here. Does it mean anything? He shrugs. Probably, but don't ask me what. What's the plan for tomorrow? I don't think there's a point in finishing the perimeter. It's going to be more of the same. I tap one of the marks on the inside the unfinished circle. I say we head to the closest tall building and see if that can be explored. Even if it can't, if the wall's on damage, I can run up to the roof, get a better view of the hole. I might be able to see where the heart is. What happens when we get there? He chuckles. Ennis, when we get there, it's just a start. We need to explore the whole thing for it to count. Yeah, this raised a problem, but I have a solution, which will probably come up in the next chapter. Alrighty. And this concludes chapter 89 of The World Which Is. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is up on a Royal Road for free. If you want to read ahead of that and support me in the process, that is on my Patreon. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.